Welcome back to New Persuasive Words. I'm Scott Jones.
And I'm Bill Bohr.
Bill, so much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rain water beside the white chickens.
Wow.
That, of course, is by the great William Carlos Williams. And wouldn't that poem been so great if he would have added at the end, beside the white chickens in Carmel, Indiana? Would have changed the poem.
We do have a lead on a potential, our potential Carmel correspondent. I have a nephew that goes to Butler, and so we're in conversations. So we'll see if that happens. By the way, last night,
this is our Camelot, Bill.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, last night we haven't really talked much today. We had between 60 and 70 people at that Bob Dylan thing we did last night.
Nice.
Yeah, which is pretty remarkable for Manchester, Vermont. I've ran my friend who runs the very popular bookstore. It's like a tourist attraction here. He said, 60. We don't get 60 people for anything here in Manchester. But it was interesting. And the guy I did it with is a musician who's also a pastor and real good guy. And it was interesting. We were trying to figure why do people come out, right? Well, and people from our church, both of our churches, people, I think it's kind of a new thing for ministers to be cooperative up here. So they like that. He has a bit of a following in the area. I think there are people the Dylan thing resonates with folks right now. I mean, there were people.
You used to laugh about.
Right.
Yeah, when I was hanging out. I do the best like a Rolling Stone. I crush it. Every time I do it in karaoke, I bring down the house. I love doing like a Rolling Stone. It's although with karaoke etiquette. It is there's ethics. I mean, it's a long time to hold the mic hostage. It's a long song, and unless you can bring it home, which I can, I don't recommend doing long songs. I think songs like I like to do Copacabana, and that's got like 56 measure break. I do a little mambo dance to it and stuff, but still, if you're gonna do a long song with musical, first off, you don't do. See, I break all my own karaoke.
Right, you're breaking your own rules right now, right?
Yeah, but Copacabana is not long instrumental songs are just killers in karaoke. You shouldn't do them. But I have it in my repertoire. I might go to karaoke tonight. It's possible.
Very nice. Yeah. No.
No, I didn't even eat lunch today. I had breakfast today. This is a non-Billboard day. You find me a day that Bill Bohr has skipped lunch and there's not a medical procedure involved.
Well, I have changed. I skip lunch a good bit now.
That's very un-Billboard.
Well, I used to want to have lunch. You never want to have lunch.
No, I never want to have lunch. I don't even like to have lunch by myself.
Yeah, it was one of the.
You love a nice lunch meeting. You like a nice whiting fish.
Like white fish, yes, very nice.
I'll tell you what Bill gets. I have that. So Bill, we got a lead on Carmel, which is exciting.
We do.
Is our Camelot. I mean, we found meaning. In a restless and meaningless time.
Yeah.
We found that meaning has a face. It's a place. It's got a name. It's Carmel, Indiana, and we're going to explore it more.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's good. Yeah, we got Carmel thing going. You got karaoke going. I'm playing guitar again in front of music. Yeah, doing music in front of people. So
this is the 60s, man.
It's back.
Bill, you get a protest going, man.
Well, what's hilarious was now guy I played with, Andres, is Andres is 15, 16 years younger than I am. And at one point, and it was an older crowd. These were people that were, a lot more Bob Dylan's peers. But
would these people have rebelled if you plugged in the electric?
We joked. We said, if you guys get rowdy, we're going to turn it up, man.
What was the most profound truth that was extracted from the presentation? What was it?
Well, part of what we did was talk a little bit about a spiritual journey. And matter of fact, our friend Ben Yamin put me on to probably the definitive Jewish expert on Dylan, and so I talked a little bit about the mystical, the tree of life, and being in the song "Forever Young." I could hit the high notes in "Forever Young." That was no small feat on my part, but I think first of all, I think there was an older guy who's actually his partner comes to church, my church, but I've never seen him before. And he said, he asked, where are the protest songs now? Because we need protest songs right now, which was really it was kind of surprised. And I said, well, I think they're being written. It's a different kind of form, but but even Dylan's relationship to the protest movement was an interesting one. I think the movie kind of nailed that, particularly as I've done a lot of reading research, so that he was a reluctant. I think he's a poet. He certainly is a prophetic. He certainly taps into the Jewish prophetic tradition. But I think basically he's a songwriter who's gifted, and I think I don't know that there's anything for him often other than the art, but he reads deeply. Everything from late 19th century French poets to the Roman classics to the Old Testament, New Testament. So, and Christian mystics and Jewish mystics as well, and everything in between. So I think for me the most profound thing was just that people were this interested, and that people.
They got the movie out, right?
Well, no, but
the movie just came out. There's a Dylan buzz. I mean, there's.
And the other thing too is I think because these are people. The majority of people in that room are not happy what's going on in the world. There were a lot of people that this was the Dylan generation. Some of these people may actually been very angry at Newport. I'm sure there were people in the room. I'm sure they're at Newport.
You gotta admit, "Boots of Spanish Leather" is one of the great breakup songs of all time.
Oh my God! Well, I said
I love that song.
One of my comments last night, before Taylor Swift even was born, Dylan was perfecting the angry revenge song.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, but
Bill.
Yeah.
All right, so you're up there in Vermont on the wall.
Up here on the wall.
I got all kind of stuff cooking in Vermont. Right
yeah, you're coming to invade. I understand. Yeah.
So let me ask you this, but you sent me an article today.
I did. Yeah.
From a riveting podcast. Bill, dynamism.
Don't do that when I'm drinking water, please. I've never watched it before.
Yeah, this first off, so a lovely guy, I an evangelical, I think. It's sort of a never Trump or anti-Trump evangelical. And
he's got he just oozes earnesty.
Oh, very earnest, very earnest, very earnest. It's a great description.
And we don't mean that's not an insult. It may be the way we're delivering it, but no, he seems like a very earnest.
As Trump would say, a little bit of a low energy guy. Okay. No,
you have a guy from Minnesota talking to a guy from Wisconsin. So,
yeah. But you
have to pace yourself.
But let me tell you, hats off to the podcaster in question, who we should credit. I forget his name. It's something like
Hold on, let me get it here. I have it. I have it here.
Oh, here it is. It's a podcast. This is so anticlimactic.
Paul Rinke, is that right?
Paul Rinke.
Yep.
The Rink Man, Rinkmeister, Rinkarama. So Paul Rinke got Charlie Sykes, which is I'd like to have Charlie Sykes on Give and Take. I would love to do that. So hats off to him and his booker. But I'll tell you what, those two guys, it ain't Steve Bannon.
Yeah. But the answer, well, part of the reason I sent you it without listening to it because the title was provocative, and the title.
Thank you.
Well, you send me stuff all the time.
I generally have scoured.
You generally have listened to it.
Yeah, I'm just like, what's the interesting part? So I'm like, wow, 15 minutes into it, there's got to be. Where's the big reveal?
Well, and then you said, "Well, I don't know what you text me." I go, "Oh, I haven't listened to it yet."
I was like, "What is this?" So I listened to the whole thing, and and then I found the Substack.
Well, then and I actually listened to it most of it, and then skim the Substack as well. So I did my penance having told you to do this without me doing it. So, by the way, today kick up first opening day baseball. I just thought we'd throw that in there.
Right, and Phillies are away.
Phillies won.
Yeah, and they're home. Wait, it's a home opener. It's not Saturday, right?
Is it? No, Saturday? It wouldn't be Saturday.
Isn't that Tuesday or something?
Monday or probably Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday. So I went and tracked down Charlie Sykes' Substack, and he says that this piece he's writing he says, I like to think of this as the first in a series of the cognitive dissonance of MAGA, highlighting Trump's active opposition. I'm reading this so much more energetically than Charlie Sykes would.
Yeah, I know. And
active opposition.
I opened it too today, so very good. Give it a dramatic reading.
Trump's active opposition to the very things he claims to champion. So expect something like Trump versus free speech, Trump versus free markets, Trump versus law enforcement, Trump versus American exceptionalism, right? Trump versus lying, Trump versus adultery.
It sounds like the week. It's what our week has been.
Exactly. This is Trump versus society. So this is his first in the series, and it's Trump's war against Christianity. So, Bill, tell us the battle lines. Tell us where they're happening. What are the casualties? Who are the generals involved? Where are the marching orders?
Yeah, I know. I like. Well, first of all, you have to be part of my group chat if you want any of my military secrets.
Signal. Yeah, it's Signal.
I got my Signal chat.
By the way, there's some Republicans with conscience right now going after Hegseth.
Ah, well, yeah, that's because he's so competent.
At what point does Trump just hang him out to dry? Right. I mean, I'm just wondering at what point, he kind of begrudgingly, I have faith in the security advisor. But at some point, Trump lives and dies the media, and the media cycle's not going to, I mean, it's not looking good on this stuff. And at one point, does he just guillotine? Somebody's got to lose their job.
Yeah, maybe when he's swimming naked in front of the Jefferson Memorial, that might be the bridge too far. I don't know. Well, first of all, I think when we were trying to come up with the title, I said put a question mark beside this line because first of all,
there was no question mark in Wisconsin Charlie Sykes post.
No, Charlie Sykes
fervent.
I think it's obvious that there's a lot. We've talked about this before. There's so much that's antithetical about Trump and Trump just personally to any kind of the irony that in many ways he would have made a better liberal Protestant than a traditional evangelical, but the embracing of that and the fact that the excuses and we come up with all kinds of misappropriation of figures from the Hebrew scripture to try to justify this. But I think much of what has been key ethical concerns of the Hebrew Bible, of what it means to be, to approach the world from a Jewish perspective and then from a Christian perspective. I mean, where do you begin to even? What do you find that he believes in that is consistent with anything that's historically Christian? Now, again, American Christianity seems to have very little need to be connected to the historical faith. Even at one point, his final point is, and Paula White, a Christian heretic or a heretic, is his spiritual advisor. Well, when did America ever get concerned about heresy unless you're, James Dobson because he missed the McCarthy era, he had to go after Tony Campolo. But the fact that James Dobson would even accuse somebody of heresy is remarkable. But yeah. So for that, and that dates me a bit, but there was a heresy trial.
Oh yeah, yeah.
For Tony Campolo. And,
that was written about in several of the obituaries and tributes, to the memoriam sort of pieces with his recent passing. That people recounted that.
Yeah,
that
there was hardly his
J.I. Packer was the pope for that. It was basically the prelate. I mean, he was the moderator.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it certainly makes the Cardinals, who were trying Galileo, look good. That's that group. That group. Yeah, J.I. Packer. Shame on him for being even involved with the thing. But no, he lists that. He lists going after Christian charities, the anti-immigrant thing, which caring for the immigrant, caring for the stranger is kind of a central principle of the Hebrew scriptures. Remember, once you were strangers as well. The history of Christian charity, the history of Christian protecting vulnerable people. You go on and on. His misuse of the Bible, treating the Bible as just one other of his gimmicks to make money. I mean, it's hard to say at what point. I mean, frankly,
did you know? I didn't know this. That Bible, which is $59.99, which for a study Bible would be reasonably priced, but I think this Bible, I don't think there are study notes in it. And although you do get like Declaration of Independence, the Pledge of Allegiance, other documents, and there's a picture in the promotion materials. I don't know if this is in the Bible itself, but this is cool. He's pictured alongside country singer Lee Greenwood.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, and when Lee Greenwood was around about the time of the writing of Haggai, right? He was part of that. He sang that song when they rededicated the temple. He and Haggai, Zechariah, and Lee Greenwood all were part of that group. Yeah. No, I think, to me, it almost is silly to even talk about it because it feels like an empty conversation.
It's so great. One of his sentences, he says, Sykes says, while his evangelical supporters shrugged off the Bible grift, some critics saw it as a sacrilegious. I love that. Like, what's the image? What do you do with the Bible grift?
Yeah. And I mean, J.D. Vance's Catholicism reminds me a lot of those Austrian Nazi Catholics generals at the end of the war who, tried to escape through Italy. Suddenly they said, they thought maybe I'm going to go to hell for what I did. I remember reading about one. So I don't know. It seems a lot of what that group of folks do, and I nothing personal against him at all, but it seems like this ship has sailed, right? And the Christians who are behind Trump are it's hook, line, and sinker. I mean, I think the people with consciences, those folks have lost their churches, have left. I mean, so I don't, it's hard to know, what purpose this serves because who's listening to this at this point?
Well, I'm just looking at some. Yeah. What do I have to say here, Bill?
I don't know.
I did listen to the entire conversation.
Yeah.
Charlie Sykes.
Well, I guess for me, it's good to see that there are people who are trying to be. I mean, French is somebody,
I like David French.
David French is someone who has consistently tried to be. I mean, that's the conservative evangelicalism that I recognize. That was
that guy.
That's what I came out of, right? Yeah.
Loads of integrity. Like, you cannot like his positions on any given issue, and a lot. I mean, but no one can accuse David French of lacking integrity. The guy is an incredibly integritous guy.
So you probably have more connections with that side, that branch of Christianity now. I mean, I came out of that, but it's been years. So who do you know do you know other people like French who are in evangelical churches? I mean, maybe we need to be careful to name names because they might get in trouble.
Names and names.
Yeah. I think our friend who was in Philadelphia who almost followed what's his name up at Redeemer. I bet you he's in this.
Oh yeah, he's
no names. Remember, no names. Yeah. No names mentioned.
And we have friends at Wheaton College who
right
find this problem.
No, I think Wheaton College. There's a lot of folks that are trying to hold on to, maintain the legacy of that thoughtful evangelicalism, and certainly in the spirit of Billy Graham. Can't say much for his his son, but certainly that's what the thoughtful Billy Graham's thoughtful engagement with politics, but also what he learned by getting too close and being manipulated by partisan folks. So
who's been utterly silent on the Trump issue in any way, shape, or form? Guy I know, Billy Graham's grandson. It's not really spoken out.
Oh, right. Well,
and he's got a pretty prominent. That's interesting because he's got a significant platform now, and that's just not what he does. But he doesn't do any culture war stuff. He doesn't do any politics. So, but that's interesting.
That is interesting.
So, Bill, I will contend this. I will contend that most of the time when people say that Donald Trump is against Christianity, it's exclusively moral, right? I mean, it's generally not without exceptions, but
American Christians are not that concerned about theology anyway,
right?
I mean, yeah,
but it's usually condemning Trump for really lack of decency,
right?
Or for lack of compassion, or being a liar or a criminal, or I mean, there's many things, but it's interesting that it's not the concerns are not uniquely Christian, right? I mean, a lot of them would not need to be theological, except for I do think. And you're reading Holland right now, right? So this would come out in Holland's Dominion. One of the things that I think is unique to Christianity is the preferential option for the poor. Like the teachings of Jesus, you don't see that in antiquity, right? The unique care for the marginal, and of course that was carried on with mixed legacy, but to the degree that
but
it was carried on. In Western culture, this goes back to Jesus and is something that is distinctly Christian that I think, and I'd want to say, I think I would go so far as to say, anytime you see that particular moral emphasis, it's derivative of Christianity, even in its secular forms. It's somebody that's downstream. I mean, many people have said Marxism is just a Christian heresy, and that's absolutely true. So there's that case, but I do think
I would say capitalism is too.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
I mean, Adam Smith be damned, but I suppose. But I mean, yeah. So I would say that. So yeah, I mean, there is. I would say there's a war on decency and a war on morality,
right?
And I think a war on charity, certainly. I mean,
yeah. I mean, even just the. I mean, you look at where the cuts started. The cuts are starting almost all with social services and care for the poor and aid, international aid. Now, again, I mean, the international aid is, the CIA is involved in all those things. I mean, that's part of, So, I mean, we're kind of, but seems to be no care about our national defense, our national intelligence. I mean, I think the recklessness.
Hey, pal, Tulsi's on the job.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Where did you see she wore a $60,000 watch to a concentration camp? See her photo op in that El Salvadorian concentration camp.
She's a lovely. What'd you want her to wear, Bill? She's a lovely woman.
Yeah, she's full of class.
What'd you? Was it an Apple Watch? Not an Apple Watch.
I don't know what it was.
They don't make them that expensive.
No, I don't know. That wasn't Apple Watch.
Where did she get $60,000?
As well, I mean, Putin would be happy.
It's Putin money. I mean, because
I would think it's Putin money.
She was a certain Russian member.
No, it's Russian. I'm sure it's Russian money because she was kind of their stooge.
Because you're a house member keeping up 2 residences. I don't know what her husband does, but a $60,000 watch. That's a high ticket item for her.
A high ticket item
for her house member. Wow.
Yeah,
she's so lovely. I think
you do like Dancing with the Devil, don't you?
I would polka with the devil there. I would. Yeah, I would do Labada. I would many dances.
I've been reading for Lent. I've been reading Clement's Roots of Christian Mysticism. So it's text from the Fathers and commentary. This is from I read yesterday from Gregory Nazianzus. He starts out by talking about how people get rich. That's in of itself is interesting. He goes on, they do not realize that poverty and riches, social contrast, and other such distinctions were late arrivals among human beings. They spread like epidemics. They were inventions of sin. But in the beginning, it was not so. Hold fast then to the primitive equality. Forget subsequent divisions. Attend not to the law of the strong, but to the law of the Creator. Help nature to the best of your ability. Honor the freedom of creation. Protect your species from dishonor. Come to its aid in sickness. Rescue it from poverty. Seek to distinguish yourself from others only by your generosity. Be like gods for the poor, imitating God's mercy. Humanity has nothing so much in common with God as the ability to do good. You are Christ's servants, his brethren, and fellow heirs. While it's still not too late, help Christ, feed Christ, clothe Christ, welcome Christ, honor Christ. It's Gregory Nazianzus on love of the poor.
Can't you see Donald Trump going, nobody feeds Christ more than me, okay? Nobody honors Christ. Mar-a-Lago, if he came to Mar-a-Lago, I would give him the chocolate cake that I gave President G.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons, that, all this, that we're living really in the spirit of the Antichrist is just because it's a fundamental failure of, great Nazianzus. It's also, it's not lost that we're not talking theology here because they don't know the morality of Nazianzus, and they certainly don't know the theology of Nazianzus either. I mean, that's kind of the American story, right? By the way, those of you who may not know, he was one of the Cappadocian Fathers, one of the guys who kind of saved the doctrine of the Trinity.
I never trusted him after the flight to Pontus.
He didn't want the job, man. He didn't want the job.
I'll tell you what, I wish a lot of people in the cabinet had taken a flight to Pontus. Where's the train to Pontus when you need it, dude?
Yeah,
put Hesketh, get Hesketh a bottle of vodka and a couple strippers, and put them on the train to Pontus.
we need a consulate there. Let
me tell you, Bill. Let me tell you what and that Nazian, I need to read that tomorrow. That's beautiful. It's good for my soul to hear that, actually.
Yeah.
I think that here's the war on Christianity. This is what I think. This is some stuff I've been listening to. It's been influenced me from sources coast to coast, Idaho and New York.
Yeah, right.
But I think
speaking of the Antichrist, go ahead.
Yeah. Exactly. I like my Antichrists Republican. Okay.
Well, you got what you want there.
So it's interesting that my friend Rustarino would say that World War II, like the period from like 1910 to the late 40s, it's like no trauma since like the wars of religion, right? I mean, it's just traumatic for European culture and Western culture. 2 world wars, a depression, the war to end all wars follows another war with nuclear weapons, right? I mean,
well, right. No, I think Europe has never quite recovered from World War One.
Yeah, and so I think he and my the provocateur from Idaho shall not be named. They both have told a story, which I think there's some truth to. That Hitler becomes the looming reality for modern memory, right? That this is, and Susan Neiman makes this point in her book on evil, right? That the Lisbon earthquake, which we were only 2 centuries off when we tried to name it last time, the Lisbon earthquake and the Holocaust is like this natural evil and this moral evil that bracket modernity and sort of shape modern consciousness. So Hitler becomes the just the foil, the arch nemesis, the specter. Hitler, Nazis, and what do you say? So you're Hitler, you're a Nazi. What do you do? And people say it on the left and the right, right? People call each other Hitler. They call each other fascist. We at
least should call people Stalinist. He deserves equal time as when you talk about the terror of the 20th century.
Absolutely, but you're right. It's interesting that Stalin doesn't, with a higher body count, but doesn't warrant the sort of imaginative.
Yeah, I think probably in the 50s that was. I mean,
the Cold War. Yeah.
But
if Hitler is the thing, right? And our friend from Idaho says that he's not really our friend, but he's not even an acquaintance. But he recalled a story from the 70s where he was in college, and this woman said, you Christians, you just are so intolerant and you want everybody to believe like you, just like the Nazis. And that's how people get killed. And he says, well, let me ask you this. If you want me to kill Nazis, go fight and kill Nazis, which I think was a good thing that we did, I've got to figure out what they believe. And if I should kill Nazis, and that I have to have pretty firm convictions about what I believe in order to condemn and kill the Nazis. So there's this, but this specter of Nazis, of Christianity, of the truth is oppressive, right? That anytime somebody has a truth claim, it winds up in what was it in the 80s at Stanford? Western Civ, no something Western Civ must go. Like this idea that truths, that any truth claim is a power play, that any claim to knowledge of the truth is oppressive, is an attempt to dehumanize people, marginalize them. And so unless you have a healthy dose of relativism in any of your convictions, you're watered, like it's turpentine, like paint thinner, then you're dangerous, right? And so that to me, and so what you have is this idea that,
but the irony of it, those folks were true believers of a different type, right? I mean, the interesting thing about you and I've lived in those environments where the kind of rigidity that existed on, I don't know, it's kind of, I don't want to call MAGA radical conservatives, and so I'm not sure. The rabbles at, of intelligentsia, the politically correct crowd, I guess we call them progressive instead of liberal, but how illiberal the extreme left had
I remember Bob Chestnut, the pastor of East Liberty Presbyterian Church, in a sermon when I was in Pittsburgh said, and with no irony, an inclusive church isn't for everyone. And but what he was talking about, then he was saying who you needed to exclude to make an inclusive church, right? And so I think that now you understand this, right? Because you think, look, German nationalism in general, but particularly the nationalism that is embodied in Nazi Germany, is something that's gone awry, is something that it's sort of, as Rester you would say, it's a dark, strong God that is perverted. It's a perverted love. And
I think it's inevitable. I think nationalism, that's the only way nationalism ultimately goes.
Usually. Yeah.
Yeah. I would, because, look at, I mean, the extreme Jewish nationalism is, one of the struggles that's going on inside Israeli society right now is, can we reconcile our Zionism and our Judaism? And they at least have a framework to have that kind of conversation. We don't have that as Americans, right? Because what Christianity can we, I mean, it's a very different kind of thing. So they at least have a framework to have that kind of ethical conversation. But I mean, American nationalism, the blood and soil stuff that's going on, the intolerance of the left is, there's a race who can be more intolerant right now, right? I'm not sure who would win right now. We know that for $400 million, Columbia will get born again, and suddenly all those principles are not so worth. They were worth bullying conservatives and Jews on campus, but they aren't worth $400 million. Apparently, that's what they're willing to bend the knee to Trump for, which I find.
Don't you think it's a lot? 30 pieces of silver is a lot cheaper.
30 pieces of silver, yeah. But you look at all these champions of free speech; they're all bending the knee because of money, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I think this response to nationalism and trauma in the 20th century leads to the answer is the open society, right? More and more openness, more and more openness. And I even think of this like my progressive friends. I think when they think that I'm a Christian, I think they think, but you're not like really a Christian. I mean, not in the sense that you really believe it. I mean, you're a Christian in the sense of you believe you should be nice to other people, you believe in love, but you're not like one of them, or you're not like somebody that believes in absolute truth, or I might not believe in absolute truth, but I mean, the truth with a capital T, or any of these kinds of things, right? So there's this sense that you're one of the good ones because you have watered down your convictions such that, no, you agree with me about left-wing politics. And we can say, even he can tell you, even it's, it's like we said a few episodes ago, right? That they used to say the old liberal Protestant sermon was, you quote a little from the New Yorker, you quote a little from the New York Times, you quote a little bit from a philosopher and a little poetry. And then at the end of the sermon, you say, and perhaps Jesus said it best. And so
in my generation, if you could quote a Frederick Buechner story.
Frederick Buechner, right? Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think
blessed memory.
That war on Christianity, like, what I think troubles me? That I'm not more troubled by it.
But that, for me, it's part, for me, it's kind of where my mission field is. It's like when I was working with high school kids, I never got troubled by the things that, would freak other people out because it's your mission field. I mean, for me, and you to a certain degree as well, I mean, most of our mission life has been spent among liberal Protestantism and people who, I mean, my entire ministry in mainline churches has been converting people in my churches. I mean, God converts them, but by presenting the gospel to people who are already church members. And so I do think you have a tendency. I mean, we might temperament, we have certain, I think people have naturally conservative temperaments and naturally are a little more open in terms of, maybe liberal. We have different kinds of ways of thinking about, or, how much this is temperamental, but still, I do think you try, who you have to spend most of your time working with, you have to develop a kind of tolerance for, right? And it's also, the more you learn,
but this is the thing, though, right? The danger, right, of relevance, of contextualization, of winning the right to be heard, is that the shadow side of that is accommodation, right?
Well, right, but that certainly accused the Apostle Paul of that, right?
Right.
I mean, that's part of what got Paul in trouble. But I guess for instance, I've had people I've disagreed with politically in every my congregation. And so I've had to make decisions sometimes. I'm going to be more careful about my openness politically. I mean, the way I am on this podcast is different than the way I ran my whole ministry, right? Because so are you willing to come to the, I come to the weak as the weak, I come to the strong as the strong. I mean, I understand there's a danger in that, but it's built into the Christian. It's built into the Christian strategy.
I think. See, I sound like you right now. We're switching roles. See, I think where is the gospel offensive, right? And how is it offensive? And does anything anything I say or write or think ever offensive to the tsunami that's been coming down for decades and is winning? I mean, it's numbers, church attendance is going down
well,
at a more rapid rate, and the culture war, and the culture war, and the culture war, I think, is I mean, despite the fact that Trump seems, our friend in Idaho would call Trump a port in the storm.
Right. Well, that's the whore he chooses to visit in the harbor.
Yeah. Well, hey,
Bill,
Bill,
literally,
what is a harbor without whores? I ask you.
Right. Well,
that's not an economically functional one.
Right.
I go back, Bill. I go back to William Carlos Williams. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. This poem is a direct FU to T.S. Eliot, right? It is saying that reading, like treasuring Western culture like James Joyce and like T.S. Eliot, and thinking we need to steward this tradition and having aesthetic sensibilities, all is oppressive, right? And so this poem is poignant in that sense. It's saying, look, if you want more ethically humane people, you've got to do away with aesthetic excellence. You got to do away with this obsession with the tradition, and you've got to have a radical democratization. And you could argue in his later work, T.S. Eliot capitulates to this, and some people say like that this is why his later work is more mediocre, like his plays and stuff like that. This is a somehow that you can't have aesthetics and ethics, and then you have to choose ethics. And so,
right.
So this is the war, I think, on Christianity, that I think Christianity is losing, and which is okay. I mean, I mean, because I mean, look,
what is your eschatology? What is your eschatology?
Christianity, I mean, look, because we never. No, I would say like Halik. It ultimately, every loss, every death is a resurrection, right? That every
absolutely.
Losing can be winning, right? And
most of the time it loses. It needs to, whatever it loses, it needs.
What is your eschatology, Bill? Because it sure as hell isn't Greg Strawbridge's, who said to me,
it's not.
I said, he asked my millennial position. I said, I guess I'm a millennial. He said, why do you want to be on the losing team?
That's right. I remember that. I do think there's a sense where that I think Bob Dylan's one of my favorite Bob Dylan songs.
By the way, Brother Strawbridge would be animated and excited to hear me talk like this right now.
Oh, he would. Yeah, that's a good. I like that.
Brother Strawbridge would think, wow.
Hey, but you know what? I bet you it's his turn to pray for you in heaven right now.
Exactly. That's why you're on fire. I'm on fire today.
That's right. That's right.
Do you know there's Strawbridge lectures? Somebody told me yesterday that they saw someone posted they were at the Strawbridge lectures. There's now, I have to figure out where this is.
We have to find, oh my goodness.
I would go to that in the future.
Absolutely.
We could go podcast from the Strawbridge lectures.
That would be.
They could evangelize us, because I don't know that we'd cut the mustard as Christians in Strawbridge lectures, but we'd certainly have a good time.
Well, he liked us. He thought we were.
He liked you a lot.
Yeah, he was a good creator. I think we would say, we each would say that we think the other was mistaken. But
absolutely.
But thanks be to God for grace, right? And for that. We do see through a glass dimly. I still think we all forget that, right? I forget that all the time. I mean, we see through a glass dimly. And so there's a sense where our critiques of each other, our definitive statements, all must be held on to loosely.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
And that made me happy. Thinking about, I love that idea of Greg in heaven interceding on your behalf.
I think I'd take any Greg's prayers I could get.
You've worn that brother out.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I have. And I shall continue to do so.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening.
Thanks, everybody. And the beat goes on.